Rex is a very good man. I like Rex a lot. I really appreciate his commitment to the service, and I'll be speaking to Rex over a long period of time.
And Rex had to go. We hardly knew you. Rex Tillerson out as Secretary of State. We'll talk a little bit more about that coming up. Joining us now from, the heart of everything, California. I think it's still part of the United States, our great friend Melanie Morgan. Joining us from MediaEqualizer.com. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Kevin. It's great to be with you from the very rainy and stormy San Francisco Bay Area this morning.
You know, we don't get a lot of that here. It's just sunshine and a little snow.
I know. I'm actually thinking of moving there, so keep tempting me. But today is a big day in California. President Trump, fresh off of his firing of Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, is going to be arriving in the Golden State, and he is going to be taking a look at all the big, bold, beautiful designs for the big wall that he wants to build near San Diego. So we're all very excited about that. And, of course, the liberals' heads are exploding all over the place. And there's going to be demonstrations for the wall as well as against the wall today. So it'll be interesting to see how this progresses.
Well, it's amazing. Y'all get anything done in California, considering the drama all the time. But before that, I still want to be the chief recruiting officer to bring you to Idaho. So
I am on board with this. As a matter of fact, my girlfriend and I have got our road trip sketched out right now. We're going to take 2 days to come up to Idaho. We're going to do 5 hours at a time, stay overnight in a hotel, and then roll into town. So watch out, Kevin. That's all I got to say is just watch out because the girls are hitting town.
Well, we look forward to that. The red carpet will be out, and we always need more good conservatives. Are there any left in California? And your thoughts as someone who has been an icon on talk radio and conservative messages, not only in California but the country, why the president is going today and what will be the reaction? Obviously, the libs will be flipping out, but who's he talking to today in California?
Well, I think he's going to be talking to all the patriots who still live in this state. There are 12 of us, I think, maybe 13 if I might have missed my cousin, but we're going to check it out and get back to you on that. No, there is an enormous interest in safeguarding the state because, look, we've had tens of thousands of Californians and other Americans who've been murdered along the border because of the narco cartel that has dominated in Mexico, people who are trying to bring drugs and import crime across the border, as well as good citizens, people, or illegal citizens, I should say. I mean, not everybody who crosses, obviously, is a criminal, but we have a huge problem, and this is something that we simply have to address. Donald Trump campaigned and was elected on a platform to secure our borders. If he didn't do this, his base would be very upset with him and most likely would not return him to office in 2020. So this is an important thing both to him personally as well as to us as a country. You know, there's absolutely nothing wrong with making sure that we have a secure entry and exit point from not only California but from Texas and from all of the border states along the region. And anybody who says differently has a political agenda that doesn't align with American values. So that's important to remember.
Melanie Morgan joining us, MediaEqualizer.com. Kevin Miller in the morning at KIDO Talk Radio. However, what do you say to the swarmy-marmy, condescending press that says, well, the wall will never be built, it doesn't work? I mean, you live in that state. You tell me how effective it'll be.
It will be completely effective. There's an interesting article, I think, in the Los Angeles Times this morning that says that, people from Mexico will simply jump the wall. I think that's why Donald Trump is here today, to make sure that the wall is big enough and bold enough and tough enough that people can't and won't be able to do that. It's bravado talk from a lot of people who want free benefits that the American taxpayers are having to pay for, and that's just not going to be allowed. That is not going to happen under Donald Trump's administration, and you can take that to the bank. So all of these folks who, and by the way, Kevin, can I just say this? It just drives me crazy every time I think about this. Why is it that Mexico's government is so proud of outsourcing some of its best, and youngest and several generations of its people to America? Shouldn't they be embarrassed and humiliated that there is nothing to keep these people in their own country. I mean, I think it's just shocking that the Mexican people don't rise up and say to the oligarchy, you are the people who are the problem, and we are going to fix it. But it hasn't happened so far.
Well, Melanie, unlike you, I live a very sedentary life, so I was watching this series on Showtime called The Trade, and it actually did a great job of going inside the Mexican cartels. In addition to that, going to states such as Ohio and Georgia, and just the proliferation of the narco terrorism and the drugs. And as you know, in places like California or in Arizona, what is it, the county where they say you're taking your life into your own hands because of the narco terrorists, the coyotes, and the fact that the press doesn't report how dangerous this is, or you have the mayor of Oakland tipping off the criminals to get out of town.
This is what infuriates me. Libby Schaaf, who is the mayor of Oakland, has. I don't know if you've noticed this, but every news conference she gives, she mouths the words of defiance, but her eyes speak the words of terror. She's getting more and more afraid of her own position because she's had more and more death threats since she has actually taken this stand. Jerry Brown, who's just completely nuts and has been for over 40 years in the state of California, our governor, has been backing her up, and Kamala Harris, who is probably the most evil Democrat politician in the history of this country, and that includes Hillary Clinton, is standing side by side. So when you get this trifecta of Democrat liberal politicians who are talking tough, but in fact who are, if you were to take a poll today, the majority of Californians would say secure the border. So they're taking positions that are contrary to what the people of the state of California want, and they're backing themselves into a political corner. And as far as I'm concerned, that's just great, because when the elections roll around, the midterms, we're going to find out exactly how popular these positions really are in the state of California.
Melanie Morgan joining us, MediaEqualizer.com. Kevin Miller here on KIDO Talk Radio. How evil is Kamala compared to Obama, though?
I think she's even more evil than Obama,
Wow.
and I don't say that lightly. I have been personally targeted by Kamala Harris, so I may be a little bit prejudiced when it comes to this. But she is so devious and so sneaky that what she will do is personally use as attorney. When she was Attorney General in the state of California, she used her office to target people that she wanted to keep on the sidelines. For instance, some friends of mine were going to run a political campaign for a Republican who was going to challenge her for Attorney General. So she went and used the office of the Attorney General to do audits of their taxes and of their organization. This is how really true. This is a Lois Lerner on steroids. This is who Kamala Harris is. She's totally anti-American. She doesn't represent any of the values that this country has stood for, and doesn't understand the basic constitutional foundations of the United States of America.
Well, and the scary part about that is she appears to be one of the front runners, if not the front runner for 2020.
Absolutely, and that's why whenever I get a chance to share what I know about Kamala Harris, I take that opportunity, because if we don't stop her now, God forbid in the future, because she has got one thing on her mind. She wants to become the President of the United States, and frankly, she doesn't care who she sleeps with or how she gets there. She has absolutely no moral values. And I'm not making a personal slur. I'm making a factual observation about her relationship with former Mayor Brown,
Willie Brown, yeah.
Willie Brown, who was her boyfriend and who promoted her at every opportunity.
It's almost as if like this is Star Wars, but real.
I know. Who plays the part of Jabba the Hutt? I don't know.
But when you're talking about ethics, morality, and what's right, and then you have the libs.
We do, but we also have in our arsenal Donald Trump. People do not like the way he speaks, the way he communicates, and I'm talking liberal. I mean liberals. I'm not talking about people who voted him into office, but the media and the other liberals don't like the way he speaks, and so therefore they don't listen and they don't watch to see what he's doing. And what he has been doing has been to attain this amazing agenda that he has enacted, either through executive order or through legislation. We have some of the biggest tax cuts and tax reforms that we've seen. Economic gains, the highest since 1983. The African American community has now a higher employment rate than they've had in dozens of years, certainly not under the Obama administration, who should have been leading them out of an economic ghetto, but did not, in fact, and kept them more isolated. So I'm very proud of the agenda that Donald Trump has enacted. And, you know, as far as today's developments are concerned with Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, I never thought it was a good match to begin with, but I am kind of excited by the fact that he's appointed the CIA Secretary Mike Pompeo, who is also a former Kansas representative, former Kansas governor. I think that's going to be a really good appointment, and I think that philosophically he gets along much better with Donald Trump, and so there will be less chance for discourse and or you know, a division in policy like there was with Tillerson.
Well, you know how it is. You work at the pleasure of the president.
Exactly. You know, he's the boss. He writes the check, so he gets to call the shots. And I think Mr. Tillerson forgot that. He thought that he was going to be totally autonomous as Secretary of State. No, he serves at the leisure of the president. That is the way the game is played.
Melanie, what should we be looking out for, if anything, this week?
I think it's going to be a very interesting week in terms of what Donald Trump is going to do. I think that what has happened is we've had the shutdown of the House Intelligence Committee on the Russia collusion story. And the media gave exactly 2 minutes of coverage to that last night, despite the fact we've had nonstop Russia coverage. So I think that there's probably going to be some tweeting going on by President Trump about how this thing is finally limping to an end. I think that's going to be an important story to keep an eye on. And I do think that the whole issue of illegal immigration will probably dominate the news cycle because of the president's trip today to California. And we're going to, as usual, have big arguments and just nonstop blather from the liberals about that.
Nonstop blather. We love it.
We're also, I just wanted to let you know very quickly that we have launched a boycott against Netflix because they are in high-level negotiations to hire President Obama and Michelle Obama to have a platform, an endless platform, to reshape the lies that created his legacy. So there is a boycott now underway at Stop the Scalpings on Facebook, where you can get details or read more about it at MediaEqualizer.com.
Melanie Morgan, we'll see you in Idaho soon.
You bet, and keep the fires roaring for me, because I'll be pulling up with a hot chocolate and some marshmallows to roast.
Take care now.
Thanks, Kevin.
Our great friend Melanie Morgan joining us. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Kevin Miller in the morning here at KIDO Talk Radio.
He's a very good man. I like Rex a lot. I really appreciate his commitment and his service. And I'll be speaking to Rex over a long period of time.
Rex had to go. Liberty Linda, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Yes, good morning, Kevin. You know, we'd loan you out to President Trump, Kevin.
Well, thank
You're
you.
about the only one that we trust here in Idaho.
Well, we have a lot of fake news in Idaho.
Yeah, that's for sure. You know, when I was a young girl and in high school, our history teacher handed out these little chocolates to everyone in the class. Then he'd sit in front of the class and just watch us while we're eating them. After we'd eaten all of these little chocolates, he announced to us that they were chocolate-covered ants. And, of course, all of us girls ran out of the classroom into the restroom and made us sick to our stomach. We couldn't believe it. Well, later on that day, all the guys in the class, the teacher had one of those little bitty Volkswagens. They picked that Volkswagen up and hid it in one of the halls at school.
Well, they don't have that initiative anymore.
Yeah, little high school story there. It doesn't quite meet with the one here, though. That's worse.
Sure.
But that teacher did. That was horrible. But anyway, yeah, Rex Tillerson out, and I guess the border wall in. And, you know, San Diego, I believe, is one of the most conservative cities in California. Lots of conservatives there. So he'll be met with all those wonderful conservatives. And then we'll see what goes on from there. Is there anyone left in Washington, D.C. that's good?
Well, I like Jeff Sessions, so, I mean, that's just my thoughts.
I do, too. And if you like him, then I like him. I go along with you. You have good judgment.
Well, thank you.
And as long as we have you here, you're number one to us.
Well, I hope to stay here, but you never know in this joint.
So you just signed another contract, so. Anyway.
You're a quick one. Thanks, Liberty Linda.
Just remember, you're number one here.
Bless you. Thank you.
Bless you as well, Kevin. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Our great friend, Liberty Linda. 24 after 8, KIDO Talk Radio, traffic and weather. Tea Party Bob joins us now at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Miller. How are you today? Sounds like you're having a very exciting morning.
Well, you know, the thing that really bothers me, and we'll get back to this, is this science teacher in Preston that fed apparently a puppy to a snapping turtle. Nobody did anything to stop it, apparently. And the school continues to employ him, and they say, well, you know, it's biological specimens. Is that the respect we have for life these days?
Well, maybe we should use him as a biological specimen and throw him into a swamp, see if the gators eat him up.
Yeah.
You know, this guy should be fired and barred from teaching ever again. If this is the type of education we are going to go to the polls for today and vote for higher levies in our taxes, we are truly having a serious problem in our educational system. You know, why would we want to teach our children that feeding this live puppy to a snapping turtle is acceptable behavior? You know, is it any wonder why we have these mass shootings of children by children in our schools? Why are we teaching our kids that it's okay to kill anything, and especially in such a horrible manner? You know, Mark made some good points on levies this morning. Maybe we do need to put some sort of a referendum on maxing out our taxes on homes to remove the waste from our educational budget. The citizens of Idaho need to think carefully when going to the polls today to vote for the school levies. If we continue to feed the gators, they will continue to gobble up our tax dollars. They tell you how bad things will be if you don't vote for the levies and how the children's education will be hurt if you don't give them the money. If we don't stop the bleeding, they will bleed us all dry, and we're going to become the next California.
Well, and not only that, but let's go to this tax cut that they hail as a great thing. What is it, 0.5%? Less than 1% for the residents of Idaho. And again, the bait and switch with the grocery tax. I mean, is anybody really going to miss the 0.5?
Look, that was a Mike Moyle switcheroo. And let me tell you, they don't care about the taxpayers. They don't care about the people who are making a valid living here. And it's like Labrador said, we're 44th or 45th in income. Come on, give us a break. They do not care, and it's time to change these legislators who have been sticking it to the taxpayers for years because of the crony operation that Governor Otto runs. You know, I'll tell you, President Trump has it right. You have to admit, he's playing chess while everybody else is playing Chinese checkers and losing their marbles in the process. We need some legislators like him, or we need a governor like him, to change what's going on here. You know, Tillerson was a good person to get rid of. He never really synced with Trump since he appointed him. But, you know, he is cleaning house in the typical CEO fashion. And I kind of like the way he's doing it. He's taking them down one by one as he finds out who the bad guys are. We need to do the same thing here in Idaho. We have a swamp here. Nobody seems to understand it. We keep giving them more and more money. They keep feeding that machine. They keep gobbling it up. You got to stop it someplace. Today's the day you can do something about it. When you go to the polls, don't vote yes for the levies. Vote no and tell them it's time to stop this garbage.
Tea Party Bob, thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Have a good day.
All right, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Coming up next, this disturbing story out of Preston High School, where a junior high school teacher is under investigation after he fed a puppy reportedly to a snapping turtle in front of students. According to law enforcement sources familiar with this situation, the school has not suspended him. He's still teaching, and the school says, well, he's a good teacher. It was just a bad call at the line of scrimmage. Now, I'm paraphrasing. And quite frankly, it didn't happen during school time, but it did happen in front of kids. Do you consider that a wonderful educational experience? We'll get your thoughts next at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie.
Good.
And we roll on here. Obviously, if you want to talk about the levee, great, but a story that we did submit to the Drudge Report, we expected, unfortunately, to go national, is burning up the phone lines. We'd love to hear what you have to say about it. It involves a teacher in Preston, Idaho, accused of, well, according to law enforcement officials, feeding a live puppy to a snapping turtle. That's right. Feeding a live puppy to a snapping turtle in front of students. Let's get it from Channel 13 here.
Robert Crossland, he's been teaching here at Preston Junior High for several years. And according to some parents I talked to, feeding live animals to his reptiles in front of students is nothing new.
What I have learned in the last 4 days is disgusting. It's sick. It is sick.
Local animal activist Jill Parrish is the one who contacted police after a teacher contacted her last week about an incident involving Preston Middle School science teacher Robert Crossland.
I'm not going to allow this to be swept under the rug because I know exactly how it works in small towns.
According to Jill, it was after hours on Wednesday when Mr. Crossland fed a live puppy who was reportedly sick to one of his reptiles. He has a snake and a snapping turtle. Apparently, teachers could hear the puppy screaming from across campus, and it all happened in front of students.
Allowing children to watch an innocent baby puppy scream because it is being fed to an animal, that is violence. That is not okay.
I can tell you we've got numerous calls, yeah.
Franklin County Sheriff David Fryer says the department is looking into it.
We're investigating the facts and turn it over to the prosecutor, and he's the one that will determine if the law has been broken.
And the Preston School District Superintendent sent out a statement saying they're aware of a regrettable circumstance involving some of the biological specimens at Preston Junior High. He went on to say, while the district certainly does not condone
biological specimens, a live puppy,
individual actions that may violate district policy or reasonable expectations of behavior, we hope that any errors in judgment made by a teacher in this instance will not cause us to forget the years of care, effort, and passion the teacher has given to students in Preston School District.
Well, it sounds like they've already made up their mind before the investigation continues.
You can be a good person and you can be a good teacher. What you did is not okay, and it is against the law.
Jill, who had Mr. Crossland as a teacher herself, says this has been going on for years. She says he'll offer extra credit to students who bring in an animal for his reptiles to eat. And he says it's all in an effort to teach them about the circle of life.
You have a teacher who is taking these kids in there and showing them this torture to these animals and saying, oh, this is so cool, this is nature, this is what happens in nature. How is that not screwing with these 12, 13-year-olds' minds?
The superintendent tells me that Mr. Crossland is still employed here at Preston Junior High, and while the incident is under investigation, he has not been placed on administrative leave.
There we have it. Don't you think it's time for him to go? And again, the benefit of the doubt, if it's true, but my goodness gracious. How can anybody justify this? And I love how the school district says, well, may have violated policy, but it didn't happen during school hours, but there were students there. Really? The Preston School District. I don't know how many people have been to Preston Junior High. I can tell you I haven't. But what a black eye for education. Max in Garden City with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.
Good morning, my friend. Good morning. You know, I have an opinion that's going to upset some people, so I've got to word it carefully. We need a fair and balanced report on what's happening, but we're hearing far too much from these absolutely rabid animal rights people. Yes, it was wrong. Yes, it was stupid. Yes, it was immoral what he did. But rather than hear from all of the, oh, save the puppy, it's my pet child people, why don't we just they should have him evaluated by a shrink. Let the shrink decide if he should continue to teach at all or under reduced capacity. It's funny, in America, if you beat a puppy to death in public, you will be more vilified than if you go into a McDonald's and shoot the place up. What is happening to the American people? Why have we become so overly sensitized to animals? And no, they're not your pet children. They're animals. They're cats. They're dogs. I'm sure I've angered some people, but let the chips fall where they may.
Right, but I mean, does this serve as some type of educational lesson?
No, if he wants to educate, he can get plenty of videos from Wild Kingdom and National Geographic, where the lions take down the wildebeest. He didn't need to do this. He's, like I say, he's either stupid or he's got a head full of bad wiring. He needs to be evaluated to see if they want to continue hiring him. He needs to have a shrink talk to him. And if this guy is a cuckoo case cooking on the stove, he needs to get out of there real quick.
Well, I don't think he's a cuckoo case. I mean, he's been in the district for years, and obviously people there like him and such. It seems like the folks there are defending him, at least the administration. But in a case like this, until cooler heads prevail, he should have a few days off, I think.
No, to be honest, the bottom line is this. He doesn't work in Boise. He works over there. And that school district, those people, the school board members, have been elected by the citizens. If he's going to be kicked out, it'll be a local decision, totally local, and we can voice our opinions, but the bottom line is what I'm saying, what you're saying is pointless.
I see.
Although KIDO rarely has pointless things to say, and Kevin Miller does get the job done. But this is one of those cases where we're just jawing and wasting our breath.
Fair enough. Thank you. Appreciate that. We have a young lady who's, expressing her opinion. She's at work, and we understand that. We'll keep her identity safe. I've been trying to get her on. She says, let's see, Kevin Miller, there's a report going on about an East Idaho longtime Preston Junior High School science teacher, Robert Crossland, being in trouble, regrettable circumstances. For now, Kevin, the story is just clickbait. This teacher's life is about to be destroyed. All the comments at the site by the people who actually know the man are complimentary and are saying this are being taken way out of context. The puppy was not some beloved pet, but most likely a stillborn animal in a litter. Some people allow their emotional-driven attachment to fuzzy animals overtake all logic and reason. At first, I was alarmed when I saw the headline. Then I went to the original source reporting the incident, and that's where we are. Quote, I am a current student at Crossland, and my own animals are on my own. While in class, I have not felt he has overstepped his boundaries with his animals at all. Everything he shows and teaches is for his students' benefits. He does a great job teaching and shows how much he cares for his students. If you can't see what he has tried to do for his students, then you should do one of two things. Mind your own business. You clearly don't know or may find a day you can come in and sit in one of his classes and see it for yourself. He is the best teacher I ever had and probably will ever have. He doesn't deserve all this harassment and knows more about animals involving the actions than any one of you. For those of you who have already judged him, don't know him personally, you shouldn't have a say in all of this. Well, and this person who has emailed me says, look, it doesn't seem like a Kevin Miller thing to rush to judgment. Well, I would agree with you, but I'm not down with the torture of animals. And you look at the news reports, the police aren't denying it. And as I've said, if this is true, this guy has to go. And again, as I've written about with these students that all of a sudden think they're the bosses of us with these marches that are supposed to happen on Wednesday, there's a reason why we're adults. And I know we live in a plural millennial world, but there's a reason why we're adults. It's called responsibility. And as a teacher, you serve at the pleasure of the superintendent. Just ask Rex Tillerson. You serve at the pleasure of your boss. And if the community determines that they're not down with this, and you heard that broadcast report where there were screams going on, that is not a good thing. By the way, a lot of folks are taking issue with this, comparing it to abortion. Kevin Miller, a snapping turtle ripping apart a baby pup. He doesn't sound so much different than a doctor tearing a baby apart in the womb. This happens every day and is defended vigorously and is much more morally reprehensible. That's all there is to say. And we continue to get your thoughts, your emails. Kevin at KIDO Talk Radio. We continue on. Kevin, let me guess, that sick junior high teacher is a Democrat. Even if he's not, he's got to go. He has a very thin understanding of sensitivity over domestic animals versus the wild circle of life. And thank you for that, Mike. And I would agree with that statement. You got to go. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. And blessed to be a part of your day. Boy, many people are hitting me up on the email, Kevin at KIDO Talk Radio, concerning this issue in Preston, Idaho. Kevin, though I am appalled at what happened with this turtle and puppy, why is there so much outrage on it when there is no outrage at Bundy cattle being buried alive? Barb from Sunny Slope, maybe she's back from Belize. Well, that's a good point, and other people have pointed out the abortion issue as well, right? This happens all the time, but when it happens to domestic animals that we love, this makes news. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. I go back to this story, though. And as a former educator, as a person that, seeks the value of education, I think like all of us do. I mean, we've got all these levies going on today, which is another topic of conversation, but I can't see it, and maybe because I have an aversion to science, the reasoning where you would do that, where you would have, and I've taught school, whoopee, okay? I've taught school. I've been in front of kids. I've talked to parents. It's a wonderful experience. That's why I value the people that do it professionally. But to sit there, I mean, if this were something that people would be proud of, wouldn't you do it during the day, number one? And we live in a litigious society. Wouldn't you have to sign a release? Now, again, I love the ranchers, I love the farmers, I love the people that actually work. But what's the value of that? Now, again, back to our other person's point, we're not getting the other side of the story. Apparently, the school district thinks that the other side of the story is more relevant because they haven't suspended the teacher. And I would say this, and maybe my other backup career besides photography, the incredible world of real estate, video production, I'm trying to think of other backup careers, would be crisis management. The school district would be smart to have the teacher go home until there is a complete investigation. Now, obviously, again, from this one broadcast report, they don't want to suspend the teacher. They don't want to fire the teacher. They want this situation to go away. I'm talking about a living, breathing animal. A living, breathing person is not a biological specimen. So whoever's handling the corporate communications, they're morons. They're just dummies. You don't refer to his puppy as a biological experiment. You send this guy home, and to the kids that love this guy, that's great, but no one is above scrutiny, especially an educator. You go back to other people that have gotten their start by torturing animals. And to me, in my opinion, when you feed a puppy to a snapping turtle, that's torture. So, again, until this cools out, until the police determine what's going on, but you have a segment of society that looks at animals as property, and that's how it is. And for them, probably this is not a big deal if it occurred. And again, I'm trying to give the benefit of the doubt, even though there are published reports saying that this is according to police sources. We always want to be factual. We always want to be the real news, the real talk. Not, screaming and yelling. We have enough of that these days, don't we? Barb, is she back from Belize on KIDO Talk Radio?
Yes.
Good morning. Well, welcome back to America.
Good morning, and never leaving America again, I swear to you. Yes, back from Belize. Kevin, in my past life, I taught science, including biology and environmental science, although I'm not an environmentalist. I just taught how to, just other things with that. as I mentioned, I'm appalled by this. But, there's so many other ways to do this. You brought up, as I was on hold, the issue that I was going to talk about, which was, this is torture puppies, and that there's something mentally wrong here. I'm concerned about this being something that, if my neighbor's kid was torturing puppies, I'd be reporting it. I'd be saying we have a problem in the making. And so that's what I'm seeing here. That's, I think we have a problem in the making. If not with him, at least maybe producing it with some of the kids.
Well, here's the other thing that gets me is I don't know why the administration didn't suspend him right away pending an investigation. To have him back in school does not do him any service, does not do service to those kids or that community. You need to diffuse the situation. Agree. Yeah, you need to diffuse the situation until you can figure it out.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
But, I stand by the former comment that I made, though, is, why is everybody getting up in arms with this one and not up in arms over the Bundy cattle being buried alive? That was horrific. And PETA was not interested. No animal rights people were interested. It was totally okay because it was politically advantageous for the federal government. I don't think any animal should be tortured. Any animal.
I would agree, Barb. Thank you for the call. Traffic and weather together, 8:50. And Tess in Boise with Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.
Hi. I can remember when my daughter was about 14 and she came home from a neighbor house and they had been feeding live pinky babies to a huge toad that they had and how traumatized she was. And, life is life, but I'll tell you what really gets my antenna up here is the fact you had what was probably, sounds like a former student contacting you and coming to the line of defense for this person. Boy, I think I'd be a lot more worried about, what kind of relationships are really existing there, because that's also can be considered a grooming behavior. So everything else set aside, maybe somebody just needs to look at what his relationships with his students are, besides the fact that he's using other animals.
Well, here's the other thing.
Something wrong here.
Here's the other thing, though, at KIDO Talk Radio. If it's defensible, then do it during school time. The school district can't have it both ways. It's either unacceptable, and whether it happens after school's out or not, in front of students on school property, they are responsible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and I can tell you also is that, that's a pretty prime, important time in children's lives. What you deal with when you're 12 years old, guess what? It's what you will always deal with the rest of your life. And that's just a proven fact. So what you see, what you struggle with, what you encounter, it hangs on you. And so now that's, that's history for those kids now that they'll have to be deal with, either seeing that or being involved in it or being groomed for it or desensitized to it.
Tess, should this guy go?
Yeah.
All right. Maybe he will.
All right. Maybe they need to call the school.
Exactly. Thank you, Tess.
Mm-hmm.
Look, we'll continue on talking about this. Probably we'll focus on today's Miller Minute on it. But I do want to say, as I've said in many cases, big and small, there's always a presumption of innocence, not a presumption of guilt. But looking at these cases, at this case in Preston, it doesn't seem like people are disputing what actually happened. My impression, in my opinion, they are disputing, whether or not it was the right thing to do. It was the wrong thing to do. And quite frankly, if in fact it was supposed to be educational, then you have kids sign a release. The lesson here is we need to value life, whether it's a little puppy, whether it's a baby, whether it's the unborn. We all need to become more sensitive. That is the challenge that we have in our society today. We dispose of things too much. And if I were the principal, if I were the superintendent, there are a lot of people, unfortunately, that lose their jobs because they've done one dumb thing in life. And for me personally, I can't see the justification, the educational value of doing this, whether live or dead or anything else. And extra credit, and I know people are very passionate. You don't have to tell any of us about being passionate about what we love and believe in. And we believe in you, we believe in America, and thank God for Idaho. Ray Amaya, thanks for keeping the train on the rails. That's a job easier said than done. And everybody, God bless you and your family. We appreciate you so much. Keep the faith.